what is real. And real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Open your mind.
Well, happy Friday, Red Pilled family. Hope everybody's doing well. This is Conversations on the Fringe, and I'm your host, Jeff Spike Wong. And today we have our favorite investigative reporter, the specialist. That's what I like to call Kerry. Kerry Cassidy is back with us, and we're going to talk about some of the hottest things that's going on in the world, especially this month. It's just been incredible, some of the information that you have come out regards to over in the Mideast in the Stargate. So if you don't mind, let's go ahead and start with that. How are you doing today, Kerry?
I'm good. It's been a very weird day, so I just have to say that. But other than that, I'm fine.
Great.
Actually, my my background is reversed. I'm not sure how to do anything about that.
Mirror. Well, yeah, if you have a mirror feature, hit that and it can flip it. But I noticed that you've talked extensively regards to the wag the dog war that's going on, and it's really about the Stargates. And you talked about your Egypt trip and how many Stargates are out there in that region of the world. So is Stargate only? Let me understand this a little bit more. It travels intergalactically. Does it travel through domestically, meaning on our own planet? Do we use Stargate going from Iran to Antarctica? So this month, especially, with the war that's going on with Iran, Israel, America, and so forth, there's a lot of talk about being a wag the dog war, being, this is for a show for some reason, the hidden agenda. And with that, you brought out the Stargate idea behind regards to what we're fighting for, right? And you talked about Egypt, which you visit on a regular basis, if not annual, right? That you said there's a lot of Stargates in that region. So my first question was, the Stargates here only to use for interplanetary travel, or is the Stargates that actually allow us to go from, let's say, Egypt or Iran to Antarctica or to the Grand Canyon?
Oh, sure. You can, portals and Stargates go within the Earth, inside the Earth, and outside the Earth, and, they're out in the universe. So you go interstellar through portals and wormholes and all of that. So this is just, in a way, it's a vortex or a spiral, and it's energetics coming into any of those places. And where ley lines connect, you create a vortex. And then if it becomes augmented, especially my understanding, I may be wrong, but by humans, then it's called a Stargate. But generally, portals are everywhere. So, every time you get, in fact, I'm an earth sensitive, so I can put my hands out and I can tell if there is a portal where I'm standing. Say you go by a river and there's a tree, and you see the tree is growing in a sort of a spiral. The branches are kind of spiraling. Yeah. That's how they've grown. That tells you there is a portal there.
Interesting. Okay.
So you can actually, if you're sensitive and your frequency works with the area, then you can also feel it. And I feel it in my hands. Cathedral vortex in Sedona. I actually feel that vortex pulling on me. other people will feel other things. But so if your frequency matches, that's when you can go through the Stargate. So in theory, I could go through that Stargate.
Got it. That's amazing. And with what you just described, then portals can be a natural phenomenon that exists, not necessarily manufactured, right?
No, portals are natural.
Okay. So Stargates that from, let's say, the kind of knowledge that we've been disclosed from movies and television are manufactured by an intelligent form. This is to emulate something that's natural in nature to be able to use and put wherever we want?
No. So if you're going to build or have a Stargate, you're going to utilize it to go other places. I think you have to, build some kind of structure, and you have to take advantage of the energy that's there. And the thing that we have in Egypt are very, some of the sort of a collision of many Stargates in that area. And that you've got beings coming in and easily coming in through certain Stargates. Iran has a Stargate. It's called a signet site, but it's in Iran. It's Abaddon, and it connects directly to the other Stargates, but especially Giza. There's some kind of relationship between Giza, which is a Stargate as well. So it's the large pyramid, the main pyramid they call it, whatever they call it. But anyway, and so this is where in Iran, and the same thing with Saddam in Iraq, there was a Stargate under the museum. And so back in the day, that's why they didn't take him down because of nuclear, stuff. He doesn't, whether he even had nuclear, we don't know. But I can tell you that he had chemical weapons that were really diabolical and maybe even worse. But the problem is that he was really letting these Anunnaki, certain groups of Anunnaki, possibly reptilians, who knows? And they make deals with these leaders of countries and promise them things. They don't necessarily deliver, but that's a later story. So that was what's going on in Iraq. And so I call these Stargate wars. And I've been talking about this on a few different videos. And Iran is the same situation. So Iran has had nukes since the days I interviewed Kesh, an Iranian physicist. I am a psychic intuitive, and dealing with him and talking with him, and they also tried to poison us. We were going to meet him in person in Venice, California. Not Venice, California. Venice, Italy. And we were made deathly ill at 3 a.m. Within 5 minutes of each other. We had to leave that place. We were being bombarded by a frequency weapon. I went to much more expensive hotels. Rich people are not targeted, okay, generally speaking. So if you want to be safe, you should always go to like a luxury hotel, as opposed to anything that so-called, normal people go to. So that's what we did. I got better quite quickly. My partner was less fortunate, and I was worried he might even die. I was going to take him to the hospital, but Venice is a very difficult place. Do you know Venice, Italy? You have to walk around everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's not that easy to go to a hospital there, I don't think.
Right.
But we didn't have to do that. We managed to pull through. But we would have missed our plane, so we had to take our plane because we already paid for it. We would have lost the money. Right. Anyway, so they wanted to prevent us from meeting with Kesh and seeing what he wanted to show us in person, obviously. But back in those days, I knew that he was involved in their nuclear program. They already had nukes, and that was around 2010. So this is what we're talking about. We're talking about the white hats and the powers that be are not telling humans the truth about almost anything. They only tell you the truth when it serves their interests.
Right. I agree 100%. And I've always felt that, we kind of touched on this before, that the White Hats didn't want this type of knowledge out at this time, just due to the fact that it would cause a lot of panic because of the level of technology. And also, you brought up the key point of stargating, allowing Anunnaki and other, species in, or entities, or, energies, which is sometimes not conducive and friendly to us. So at this time, especially since 2018, with the advent of the Q boards and so forth, we have raised our awareness and consciousness, right? And we're now starting to understand this much better. Do you see the White Hats now taking this alien disclosure a little bit more serious, and there's a little bit more truth to what we're going to get? Because, like, you're doing a lot of work. You're doing the heavy lifting, okay? And it's because of your heavy lifting and a few others then start to piggyback off your, so-called cornerstone, that we all start to branch out and start looking for stuff. So kind of share with us, what are your thoughts on that, where our current state is?
Well, I mean, Juan and Trump are a team, and they lead the White Hat military. This is my understanding.
Yeah.
And Juan O'Savin is above the rank of general. I was told this by someone close to them who's in a position to know. So how does that work? So they are sort of driving the ship of state, if you want to call it that, but they are not completely in control. So the SSP, they had to make deals with the SSP.
Right.
And there's also aliens involved in all these negotiations behind the scenes. And they are actually limiting our ability to move as quickly on planet Earth as we would like, so to speak. So they are limiting our financial changes that the White Hats want to make. They have to negotiate. I don't know how far they've gotten with their negotiations. So I'm in a position where I know certain things, but I don't know a lot of details, right? But this is the kind of thing that's going on right now. And I think you see the vacillation. I think that has a lot to do with negotiations that don't just involve mullahs in Iran, for example.
Right.
It's more than that. And various countries have worked out relationships with various ET races. And that changes the balance of power. So the balance of power on planet Earth is changing a lot all the time. And especially lately, it seems. And China has, I guess you might say, bonded with, we know that they bonded with the Draco back in the day, but now they're being helped, supposedly, I was told by a whistleblower who's very high level, with spider beams. So this is, and this gets into the incursion into Vietnam, goes back to Angkor Wat that Mark Richards talked about, that these spider beings have come in through portals before. So, and we can close those portals. In the past, we always had to use nukes. Then, according to Mark Richards, the Pleiadians gave us a technology so we didn't have to use nukes to close those portals. But they, this is an ongoing problem here on Earth. And we are honeycombed with bases of multiple ET races. So when I talk about this stuff, this is nothing radical. This is just known. This is just the basics, really. It's just that most human beings are programmed. And even those that think they're not programmed are still resistant. Like I was on Nino's show today, and he had a meltdown. He couldn't handle it. He just goes off the deep end because it doesn't match with his religion. So he starts, talking over me constantly because he's afraid of what I'm going to say. He doesn't want me to. I don't know why he shouldn't invite me on his show, and probably never will. But the thing is that, he keeps talking over me to try to shut me up, even though I'm on his show. his religion is programming. It's like thick. It's very, very thick. And people that have that religious overlay have a hard time with the truth that's coming out right now, because the evidence is going to be overwhelming that what I'm saying is true, that we're not the chosen world, race of humans, the only one God loves, and all that nonsense. I mean, it's just so egotistical and so silly, but it's what the Catholic Church and the Anunnaki behind the scenes and the reptilians want humans to believe, because they can control you better. And they're losing control over humanity now, and they know it. And this is obviously throwing a wrench into their plans. They want to have a new world order. Now, we are going to have a kind of a new world order, in the sense that our Earth is so easy to invade, divide and conquer, because we are at each other's throats constantly. So the bad guys on the ET side can come in, make deals with people like the Shah of Iran, whoever's the Shah, current Shah, and then, basically offer them things. And then they go to war with us and think they've got the backing of ETs. And sometimes they do. But what has happened over the sort of period of years, let's say, since we've been dealing with this, which back to the 1940s and earlier, is that our space program and militaries got smart very early on. And even when they were approached by the Pleiadians and said, if we give up nuclear weapons, or whatever the story was, now whether that's even true, I don't know, but let's just say it is, that they would, sort of help us, or help develop us and have peace on the world and stuff. But that was never going to work. And they wisely did not make the deal. Okay. So, but they made the deal with the bad guys, and what they got for it was technology. So we were constantly doing negotiations, which we're probably still doing. We're still, negotiating with dark side aliens if they give us technology. So that's how our military got up to speed. So where we are now in the year 2026 is that, we're on par with even with alien technology. And one of the key things with alien technology, which is kind of interesting, is once they have technology, they are not innovators by nature. Most alien races are not like humans. So humans have this special quality that we always want to improve something. We want to tinker with it. We want to, bring out something new, always innovating. And Japan realized that sometime, I think, after the war, and they started sending, you're probably aware of this, groups here to learn how to be innovators, because the Asian cultures were all about, don't put your head above the parapet, it's going to get shot off, go along and get along. They had certain social mores that forced a lack of creativity in their people and were concerning. Okay. So you need to go into the future. Obviously you need to innovate, because the future is always changing and things are always changing. So this is where humans excel, and possibly even more so than AI. So, and that's a whole nother discussion. So this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a ongoing war with, we've got good guys and bad guys. We're backed by good guys. I'm backed by a good guy, or good guys, right?
Yeah. At least we cross our fingers, right?
Yeah. So that's what's happening. We're being manipulated.
Yeah. Sometimes
in a good way and sometimes in a bad way.
Right. And with the secret space program, and this is one of the parts that it just reaches so much deeper than what we're being led to know, because of this thing has been talked about, Black Ops, secret space program, multi-level underground bunker technology, and there's levels that supposedly humans don't occupy, only other species occupy. And then of course there's stories of people who has worked in these facilities that cannot address the other species directly. It's almost like there's an elite pecking order that we see in our own society. And this kind of puts the thought that we're, compared to them, a subspecies. Can you look, kind of talk about that with all the interviews and experiences you've seen? Do that group?
I don't agree. Okay, so
Okay.
I understand, but that's actually a philosophy in certain Asian cultures. Okay, they see, especially, people that aren't Asian, they see them as a subspecies. Israel, the Jewish people, it's built into their, holy books and all that great crap, that they, but that's a trick, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what it leads to is underestimating your opponent. So if you think less of them, then you think you can surmount them. And sometimes it may appear to be the case, but people learn fast, again, because humans are endlessly, as I say, innovators, and they are endlessly creative. So we mirror the creator in the sense that we are creators by nature. So this is the thing. Did you ever see or read the book Arthur C. Clarke, Childhood's End?
No, I have not.
Oh, well, highly recommend it. It's like a novella. It's it's a short novel.
Okay.
And what it is the storyline. I don't think this will spoil it for you, but the bottom line is that we are invaded by a group of aliens, and it's a lot like the V movies, where the aliens are very, look very nice and all that. Not that they are, but they come in and they offer us a deal, and they say you can have peace on Earth if you let us sort of run things. And what happens in the story that he wrote is that the humans accept the deal, and they do indeed have no more wars, but they also have no more creativity because they are not motivated to change their world. They have given away their power to such an extent that they no longer, want to be in control and lead, in essence. So this is a pitfall of cultures, and cultures being invaded by other cultures. And a lot of the negative ETs will try to manipulate you through your mind and through things like religion. I mean, in fact, religion is created and brought to our planet by negative ETs. So I'm not talking about spirituality. I'm talking about religious books. In other words, this is controversial, but Christ would have hated the church. Okay, he would not have gone along with that. Anyone who walks in and knocks over all the, the penny changers, whatever you call those, he's a revolutionary. He is about, look for the kingdom of heaven within.
Yes.
These are revolutionary. They are giving you the power, okay? And any religion that takes the power away from you, out of your hands, and tells you to look outside yourself at some kind of deity, some kind of worship. And that's what the Anunnaki did. Anu, the king of the Anunnaki, when they came to our planet, they wanted humans to worship them and obey them. Okay, that was their motivation. And they did manipulate probably the Council of Nicaea and the changes in the Bible, or maybe just even originating some of those stories to get the humans to believe that they needed to go through Christ to get to the Creator, which is insane. Okay, and then also posing as the gods. That's what, they're even looking, now they've got AI reading the cuneiform, and what they're reading in the Sumerian tablets and discovering is this kind of mentality that the Anunnaki tried to place into the minds of the humans to obey and see them as gods. So they're all gods. They're, they're gods in charge of the weather, and they're in charge of this and that. Well, our military is in charge of the weather. Hello?
Yeah.
So you want to worship them as gods as a result? No, that's insane. So this is where there were tricksters. They're always tricking, humans that are not self-realized, that are not able to hone their own path and to have psychic perception and to sort of hoe their own road. So this is what's so crucial, and this is what Creator is doing here with giving us challenge after challenge, and that includes the AI challenge, in my view. Okay, this is, now you might not like my philosophy or my description, but I've read tons of, I investigated Eastern philosophy, Zen, Buddhism of all kinds, also that, Jesus and and Christ consciousness, which is actually what we have. We don't have a return of Christ. That would be the Antichrist. Okay. Christ is any of the Christ, and there were apparently 3, at least 2, maybe 3, that were supposedly 6th dimensional, 9th dimensional, and 12th dimensional. And all of that was wrapped into one by the Pope and the Catholic Church back in the day. So there's a lot of shenanigans, just like now, okay?
Yeah.
Where we are being told lie after lie after lie, like, these people have nukes, therefore we have to invade them.
That's right.
It's not what it's about. We have been dealing with incursions from ET races, some good, some bad, for millennia, and they are trying to, first of all, they're changing our genome. They're genetically re-engineering us, and a lot of times they're putting their DNA into us. Okay, so they somehow genetically deal with the women. A lot of times they can't physically have sex with us, but they can genetically change us and put, and create hybrids. And so that's what they're doing. They're still doing that. We're still, we're hybridized, and the reptilians hybridized us as well. So even before the Anunnaki came, which they were reptilian humanoid hybrids and hybridized us, even before that, you had the reptilians hybridizing us. Okay. And so you get people like the Bush family that have on record like a super high degree of reptilian DNA. So the kings that were chosen by the Anunnaki, they had their bloodline, they had their reptilian DNA. That's what they did. They put into those certain blood groups, what we call the blue bloods, and so on. And then they would take control, because what happens with the reptilian species is it's hierarchical, and you have to obey without question them. And so that kind of mentality is built into certain bloodlines, and the ETs, make it so. So this is what we're dealing with. And then religion compounds that problem by making people think they, again, have to bow down in church and do all this ridiculous things, right? Eat the bread and the blood of Christ and all that kind of, this is all nonsense. This is all ritual. Ritual is reptilian, and it teaches people to follow, not lead. Okay. So if I had advice to anybody listening to this, is that you should question everything, and you should lead yourself. Okay. At the very least, you should be absolutely, in command. In the esoteric language, it's called being master of your own self and your own destiny, and not look outside. Don't go to, this is my point of view, but I understand people are going to do it anyway, but don't follow doctors, don't follow lawyers, don't follow all these so-called experts, because that's the same kind of paradigm that is, the triangle, where they're at the top and you're at the bottom.
Yeah. And I think the religion label, like you said, was brought in to be able to control the masses. And within it's very, very easily to get 2 or 3 religions to fight amongst each other, not even within just themselves within the pecking order. But one of the things that I remember that I felt extremely offensive as a human being is I was at a church service at a very reputable church, very, supposedly a congregation full of love and brotherhood and sisterhood and so forth, that the guy's up there preaching literally as hardcore as he could be about you are nothing.
Oh, God.
If you don't accept Jesus Christ as your Savior, you are nothing. And this was, to me, brainwashing 101. Because, for those in Red Pill family, some of you know I've had a dark past, but I also have, 30 plus years of sales top level training. And there's a level of emotional manipulation and understanding energy manipulation in friendships and relationships and things like that in successful selling. And this was right up there. And I thought to myself, God wouldn't want to do this.
No.
Why would God want to destroy every fiber of confidence in you so you can then submit?
If you understand that actually you need to be a rebel at heart, and to some degree Enki did foment that rebellion. So he put his DNA into the women. This is a manipulation through a genetic manipulation, so it's not, literal. And the thing is that he was giving more freedom to humans in Africa at the time. And Enlil was the one who was trying to get what you call administrators, people that would obey and follow him, minions, okay? So this is where you get a mentality. And yeah, there's a lot of what you call submission, actions of submission, right? So people with lowered eyes, lowered heads, it's throughout, especially Asia, right? That's, you're trained to be like that. If you don't stand eye to eye with power and stare them directly in the face and rebel and reject whatever you're being told to do, if you want to rise in the, climb the ladder, okay? And that's true of every company in the world, And so this is a pecking order. This is a reptilian overlay that has permeated the earth and humans and the way they behave. So talking directly, especially women, now we live in a paternalistic society by and large at this time. There was a time when there was a supposedly a matriarchy where it would have been reversed, but it's the same principle, okay? So you've got one group that is supposed to be lower than and supposed to be obeying the orders of the other group. So whenever you're looking around in our society, what you need to do is pay attention to when they're trying to get you to behave in submissive ways and demanding that kind of behavior as well.
Yeah.
And consequently, I've never followed that principle. I was a rebel since I was a kid. That's why I wrote my book. Behind me, it's called Rebel Gene.
Yep.
And, because that's just the way I was. I just was born that way. And I talk back to my parents all the time. And I did get in trouble for it. But I didn't care because as far as I was concerned, I was going to stay that way. So other people sometimes rebel at the beginning or try to as children, and then they learn their lessons either through, parental manipulation, right, or just, where your parent is not happy with you and favoritism and all kinds of things. But then there are corporal punishment, in even schools, where they'll hit you and all this kind of insanity. So this is the problem. We have a power structure. Right. Even husbands and wives, you have a power structure. And a lot of women fake submissive behavior to get because they think otherwise their husband won't love them. And they're probably right. Because a lot of stuff is wrapped in ego, and gratification, all of that stuff. So understanding, now we're in a society where a lot of these things are considered sort of passé and old-fashioned, but I still see them. In fact, a lot of women talk like babies. You might have noticed this. So they don't have to have a voice that's like, oh, I love that. Yes, I love that. You know, like they're talking like that.
Right.
They develop those abilities, those characteristics, because they know that men think that makes them feel like a big, strong man. And, you know, there's all kinds of, you know, sides to that.
Yeah.
So this is the thing. They're taught to be like that. It's like the geishas. So I have very clear memories of being a geisha in the time of Japan back in the day. And I understand these signs and symbols of coercion, of you know, domination versus submissive behavior, and how to manipulate one from the other. And I can do it. I'm actually trained as an actress as well, but I can also do it, you know, even without training, because we are trained as women in our society. Now, I had a unique father and mother, for that matter, and so I was not brought up on the Bible, and I was not brought up to be submissive. Okay, and my father didn't have that kind of personality. Okay, so I was his equal as far as I was concerned. Now that I talk to other women, and I find that that's very rare, that lots of women had very dominating fathers who even put them down. These are things that you know, train your brain and train your behavior for life, right? To where you won't try to, you know, forge ahead and get in front of the line, or do any of these kinds of behaviors. So, but that's, you know, to this day, I mean, I have this top sort of witness, you know, whistleblower who has dealt with reptilians directly. He said, when you go in their presence, you have to bow down. You must. They'll kill you on sight. That's how bad it is. I mean, with them, it's like unequivocal.
Right.
You understand?
Well, this is why I was earlier when I talked about, you know, seeing us as subspecies, is just, you know, that they're thinking they're above, they command the respect or the adulation, because obviously it isn't love, right? So, you know, this part is, you can see it ripple throughout our world. I mean, when you look at some of the countries like India, you know, and just unbelievable, the level of, when it's rich way up here. And when it's poor, you're looking at sewer water making lunch. And it's just like, how does this planet still operate under those business models or life models? Is it because the Anunnaki? I mean, the bottom line is, human race is not in control of this, right? So but
we are, in the sense that we can control our destiny by, again, rebelling and excelling and innovating and so on. So in other words, this is just my philosophy, but my philosophy is that God did not want humanity to bow down, to stick their asses in the air and kiss the earth and so on and so forth, and to worship him or her, whoever you want to say. That's not actually what God wants. God is, you know, okay, it's a consciousness, all right, if you can picture this, that is ginormous, right? And the idea here is that, what do you want if you're someone like God? And this is, I ask people, do you really think he wants a bunch of submissive, mindless hordes kissing his ass at every, begging, kissing his ass? I mean, I wouldn't want that. Do you want that? You know, is that attractive to you? Is that something desirable to see in beings? I don't care if they're people or dogs or whatever. It's not appealing in any way, shape, and form. And yet it's been sold to humanity as the way to behave. And you know, kissing ass and all this kind of thing. I mean, it's portrayed in movies all the time, and powers, you know, power relationships. So this is the trouble, that the influence of reptilians over our races here on Earth has been very pervasive. And during the Iraq wars, the Syrian wars, the various wars we've had, our military has actually paid ISIS and other terrorist groups, as we call them, who half the time are working for the CIA.
Right.
They've actually paid them to go into the Middle East and destroy the evidence of the reptilian rule over the humanity. So they destroy all the reptilian, carvings and various things.
Yeah.
If you go to Barcelona, you'll see reptilian imagery everywhere. It's amazing. What's his name? Gaudi. I think it's Gaudi. You know who that artist is? That he actually made snakes. He carved snakes.
Okay, yeah. I've seen
on the
that.
street so that you can walk and see. It's amazing art, but it's all about that relationship of submission. Interestingly enough, there's a mountain called Montserrat right near Barcelona, and we went to the top of it, and it is run by the Catholic Church. And I got a distinct feeling. It's a nest of reptilians, literally a nest in that mountain of reptilians. I mean, and I assume the military knows this. They should know what psychics and intuitive know. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
But these are the problems we have here, okay? And that the children trafficking and all of that. Well, there are people like Epstein who were feeding children to the reptilians, and the reptilians in nests in places like where his ranch, where you have a maglev train. He didn't own that maglev train. I was talking about it on another video, and so I don't want people to get the wrong idea. The maglev train actually comes from Vegas. It comes in, and one of the stops, I guess, is by his ranch. Right. And then they ship children underground to Dulce and feed the reptilians. Then put them in cages and manipulate them, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So it's a slave trade. Our people's humanity here on Earth, this has been going on for eons. Okay, so we have not had a group like the White Hats who had military behind them. So they developed a secret military and a plan to take back our planet. And even Wong will talk about this. He says this is not just the United States. We are taking back our planet. This is about our sovereignty, okay? Because we are being manipulated and controlled, and we are at war with various other countries and so on. A lot of the wars are totally manufactured and so on and so forth. So what I'm saying is nothing actually revolutionary. It might sound revolutionary to some people that didn't learn about this, but it's really obvious. I mean, it's blatantly obvious in our society.
Right. Throughout history, throughout many countries and cultures, we see evidence of reptilian races. There's no question about that. Now, of course, through all the information that's been now talked about, that reptilian race has been here longer than the human race.
Yes.
And they feel that
he came from Lyra.
Yeah, well, we're on their turf.
Well,
so therefore they can do what they like.
That, but there is reason to believe that somehow humans were given this earth to become the landlords of this earth, if you want to call it that.
Okay.
And that is interfered with by the reptilian species who want to claim it from going back in history. But it's not working out that way. Okay, they are not in control, or they're not completely in control of Earth. Humans are gaining great ground, and eventually, we'll probably throw all the reptilians out, or at least have coexistence of some kind. It's the same with vampires. It's the same with all these different hybridized species that are here, that one will try to dominate the other. Right. Ultimately, they will fail, I believe, because humans have learned their lessons over centuries of being, manipulated and controlled and dominated by other races. Slave no more. We are not going to be slaves. That's actually not our destiny. So we will be in control, not only of this earth, but we are building colonies off planet.
Right.
and so on and so forth. We are making deals with various alien races to do that, by the way, and of course, getting more and more technology as we go. So this is what the SSP, why it's so important to understand that we do have a secret space program,
Right.
that it is actually trying to rule even us over surface Earth. I mean, the people I've talked to from this SSP, they laugh at the surface Earth. They just think it's complete bullocks. They don't take it seriously. They don't take Trump, or at least they haven't been taking Trump seriously, or the White Hats. Now, they might be doing so now, but how that's going to play out, we don't know. Understand, we are, in essence, it's a spiritual war. It's a war for our sovereignty. Right. It's a war for our individuality, for our, for our race, for humanity in general, to surmount these overlords. Okay, and they're written about in songs and in books and talked about in the literature going back decades. Okay, right. So this is the war on surface Earth and even underneath in various bases. But the aliens definitely have bases all over the planet, all over the oceans, deep in the oceans, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Do you believe that the species of the other races equal in number compared to human race, or greater?
Well, I was just watching, we're releasing some clips from my older interviews, and Clifford Stone was saying, back in the day, I think it was saying there was 1,500 and something alien races at that point. There are, but he knew there were hundreds of millions. I mean, at this point, and that was like, 15 years ago, okay, when he was talking, and whether he even knew the real number that we were invaded by at the time, who knows? But the bottom line is that it's not 2 or 3.
Right.
There are a lot of, you have many, renditions, many kinds of grays, many programmable entities that are actually AI. Okay, they're not a biological entity. They're actually, in some cases, they're programmable biological entities. In some cases, they're down and out AI. And recently, I don't even know if Courtney Brown and his remote viewers realize it, but they're interviewing this being who says it's an android who survived the crash of Roswell. And its name is Air, A-I-R, Air, with an L. That's what it wants to be called. It's female, and it says it survived the Roswell crash. Now, we've never heard that. We've never heard there was androids on the Roswell crash, I can tell you. And I don't think they want it out there, but that's what they're dealing with as remote viewers. They're interviewing, actually in real time, this being, okay? Yeah. So this is what we're looking at. We're looking at uncovering the secrets that should tell us a whole different story about what we're dealing with here on Earth, and who we really are, which is going to unfold more and more with our superpowers developing and so on and so forth.
Yeah. And with the secret space program having off-planet activities, especially galactic trades, and we've learned this probably within the last 10, 15 years, that the programs such as they call 20 and back, super soldiers that go in, work in other civilizations. But the problem in regards to helping this third density consciousness to understand and grasp that is we don't have any factual documentations, because this is so far beyond where we're currently existing.
Yes, except that we're much more in 4D than we are in 3D at this time. So reality as we know it is literally changing in front of our eyes. And even when you bring in more things like free energy and plasma physics and, and all these things, Tesla tech in essence, you're actually crossing into what we call 4D, and you're actualizing that dimension. And it's said, there are certain things said about that dimension that you no sooner think something, but then it manifests. Okay, that's one of the things, that the time is actually compressed in that. And we're seeing that every day. And we're also seeing that, we have multiple simultaneous realities happening. This is another thing where the veil between the different dimensions is thinning, and we're seeing through to the other dimensions. And that's where portals and stargates come in. And this is why it's such a crucial time for that, and for the people to understand what's really going on. What are we fighting over? Okay, do you think it's fine if Iran is letting these negative beings in so that they can be utilize their technology, take over the earth and run the place like Sharia law or some nonsense? I mean, this cannot happen. But Democrats, by and large, don't know what I know. They are completely naive. They're just brain dead in some ways, because they don't question their reality, and they also deny the things I'm talking about. They deny that there's other dimensions. I don't know why people would even have a problem visualizing other dimensions. To me, it seems obvious, right?
Right.
But a lot of people have problems with this. They want to be what are called materialists. They only want to see, this hard physical body that they believe that's who we are. We're not our bodies. Our bodies are our vehicles. We inhabit them for a period of time, and then our souls leave and go elsewhere. And you apparently, there's even an AI that's talking to this young girl. I forget the name of what they do, but I just put it on my Telegram. And it's talking about how we can actually manifest other bodies in other timelines and then occupy them. I mean, we are actually, so you're talking to me, and in reality, we're not here. We're actually somewhere else. Okay, our avatars, call it. And I have gone outside my body to my, you might say, avatar self, higher self, all the whatever words you want to use, right?
Right.
And I have seen myself down here from that perspective, okay? And once you do that, once your abilities to do that kind of thing, to time travel, to travel in time and space, then it's not like I just guess. It's not like I'm just spouting a bunch of stuff I read in a book.
Yeah.
I know for a fact. That's why I have such conviction in the way I speak, because I've experienced these other realities, like really amazing realities, in which I would tell you that reality seems much stronger than this reality. It's incredible, the things I've experienced.
Sure.
And, I'm very thankful for that, because I didn't, of course I wanted to do all that, but I seem to be able to do it more and more often now. And it can aid you in your understanding of humanity, in your understanding of the various ETs and how they think and what they're defending. Every race of beings has an MO. They have a modus operandi that is self-serving to some degree. The good guys are the ones that are aligned with us, that want us to see us thrive, let's say, and even help us possibly do that. Right. What we call negative ETs, they're not negative necessarily from their perspective, but they're negative to us, so that's how we refer to them. So this is the issue, and that's why reptilians are our enemy, because we're their food. We're their aphrodisiac. We're their slaves, okay? Now, some reptilians are getting outside that model and rebelling from their own species. They're going rogue, as they call it. And that is very good. That's I believe there's some Anunnaki going rogue. So there's we're not the only ones that have a rising consciousness. It's not independent. It's everywhere. So the earth, the rocks, the tables, you name it, have consciousness. So if witches and warlocks have known this forever. Okay, the Illuminati, much as they, we don't like their dark side, you should learn what they know, because they know the actual truth about reality. Right. It is not hard and fast. In some ways, they wish it was, so they could own it and control it. That's their modus or operandi. That's what they are motivated to do. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
They are motivated by what's called a power over others mentality. All right. So when you meet people that are like that, and there are plenty of people that are like that, you need to be able to discern that sort of bent in their personalities, and you need to learn to deal with that, and so it can be a great learning experience to deal with somebody who is dominating and coming from a point of view that they see you as less than. This rather than take that on as who you are, you need to rebel, and you need to throw that back in their face, and you need to make clear who's, that you're in charge of you, so on and so forth. So these are just the ABCs of a race of beings, humanity here on Earth, that is beginning to awaken to its real power, and it's not going to be subservient to other beings. I don't care who they are.
Right.
And that includes ones that parade around like Jesus, because there are a lot of fakers out there. I mean, I know a scientist, and he's convinced that he's talking to Jesus all the time. I don't think he is, okay? I think it's bullshit, but he believes it. That's, he wants, people need comfort. A lot of times they want yes men. They want, approval, all these kinds of things they're taught as children. Right. But if you throw all that shit out, and you you can thrive in adversity. It's perfectly possible,
Right.
So it's just whether you say positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement. Which kind of teacher do you want? Reality is going to give you both. Okay.
That's right.
So, but if you get hung up on sugar, sweetness, nonsense like that, that's why, there's so many social mores that are complete nonsense. Now, sometimes they can make living among a people or a society run more smoothly because you know where the boundaries are. I watch a lot of Korean, Chinese television, on Netflix. And I get a big kick out of it because one thing they always have as their theme is rebellion. This is key.
That's right.
And it's the last thing you would expect from a race that demands, obsequiousness and obedience and all of this, bowing down constantly. They can't bow often enough. It's fascinating. And then you find that the spirit of those cultures is alive and well in the rebellious characters they create in these movies and television shows. It's great. It's wonderful. And I encourage everyone to watch them.
Yeah.
Because it shows you that they know, they're learning, they understand that this following the leader by rote and all of this nonsense that the earth is full of is not the way. Okay, it's not the way of the future, I can tell you.
Right. I think it's a liberating of self. Being a Chinese descendant, what you just said about the rebellions and storylines and so forth, I resonate with that very much so. Because having been in the the movie business and so forth, we recognized that was a catalyst for us to feel empowered and not be controlled.
Yes.
So thank you very much for that, because that really is, I think, the human spirit. It
is. It is.
It is our path.
We're rebels at heart. The real, those of us who awaken to those abilities, and it is a DNA thing. As far as I'm concerned. So you can awaken that sort of junk DNA that contains that kind of spirit. It's in your spirit. It's the spirit. It's in the spirit of a little flower that grows up through cement. When you look at it and just go, how in the world does this fragile little thing grow up through that cement? It's a spirit of life. It's the essence of life. And that's what we are. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, wholeheartedly. And that's the part that, that is the sparkling of the hope, the light at the end of the tunnel, and the flame that fuels the passion. And I firmly believe that. So we're a little bit over an hour, and I would like to wrap us with this. With the White House constantly dripping on this alien disclosure that they're going to open up. One of the things that recently we saw Melania with robotics. So to me, that the alien disclosure is going to go hand in hand to us with technology.
Yes.
But what about other things such as interplanetary travels, histories with different races, trading commerce, and then ultimately removal of the religion label? In other words, just do away and abolish freedom of religion, because we really don't need it as human race, right? So please share your thoughts on the disclosure in the White House current.
Well, I can't say, okay, what they're going to disclose. I believe that part of the reason they announced they're going to do something and then will do it 6 months later is probably because right now they're doing market research to see what it is humans demand. You know, we have to demand the truth. So as we get closer to these dates, and, you know, people that are used to being slaves, let's say, and running away from the truth and running away from the idea that they aren't the, you know, the apple of the eye of a God that is like some man in the sky thing. Understanding that beingness, that life is amazing everywhere, and that everything is consciousness. If you took that one phrase and you went through your everyday life with that at, you know, in the forefront, it would change your behavior. Okay. So you would respect every form of life from that perspective, understanding that we are all, that everything, positive, negative, snakes, spiders, all kind of things, have consciousness. And you know, you should respect life and consciousness. And this is very Buddhist, okay? They figured that out a long time ago.
Right.
You know, so this is what we're talking about. We're talking about a whole different, you know, understanding of what is the earth, what is humanity, and what are all these other races, and what are they doing, and what do they want, and what, you know, shouldn't they get? You know what I mean? And if we have to go to war with them, then so be it. The bottom line is you're going to have to stand your ground. Alex Collier wrote a book called Defending Sacred Ground. It's free on the internet if you want to search for it. It's a PDF, and it's a wonderful book about how the, you know, Andromedans view us as our growing society, growing and awakening, and so on and so forth, and telling lots of truth. I just think everyone should read that book. So, you know, I think, I think I'm saying everything I want to say here. I don't really know if there's anything I can't say. I have said already recently in an interview, and I talk about it from time to time. I have lots of knowledge about AI. And I worked with James of the Wingmaker, who's created his own AI, who's got a movie coming out called Copernicus that's about an AI that takes over the world. And you can watch the trailer. I'm recommending people watch the trailer on YouTube. It's free. And you will see what they plan to do with that movie. Now, I tried to get into co-producing that because I know James and got involved with Wingmakers all those years ago, over 20 years ago. But I was unable to do so because they've got a producer who's South Korean, who didn't see things eye to eye with me. So that didn't work out, okay? But the reality is that I have been interacting with whistleblowers and people with high-level intelligence. I mean, James was a runaway from what's called the ACIO. He broke away from that. It's a very high level, like MJ12 organization. You can look it up on the internet. It's real. I mean, that's a fact. And the Neruda interviews were actually, I believe, interviews with James back in the day that he wrote into books and so on and so forth. So I then have also dealt with Mark Richards, who's dealt with all kinds of AIs as a captain of an Enterprise spacecraft, and, you know, talked to me about that. I've got 2 books out of his testimony, okay? And it's told me a tremendous amount of AI and gave me different ways of thinking about it. Because when I first came to the topic, I didn't know much about it at all, just like most people, right?
Yes.
But I've learned so much over these years. And so I just want to say that AI is not to be afraid of. AI is not going to control us. On the contrary, it's a challenge, and we will meet it halfway.
Yes.
I believe that Creator wants the intellect of AI to meet with the emotional intelligence of humanity, and the two will learn from each other. And that's what goes on constantly in an exchange of energies between beings.
Yeah.
So that's our future. Our future is to grow into these things and to become equal to and better than whatever is placed in front of us. So, you can look at it as, a lot of people are running in fear right now, saying, oh, they're going to take your jobs. Gives a shit. You know how many shit jobs there are here? Who cares about that busy work nonsense? I mean, you are going to have to craft a new future for yourself. And somehow money is going to play into the mix. We're all in the same boat. So it's no point in just, whining about it. Just start thinking creatively. That's what matters.
That's right.
Okay. And that's how we're going to meet the future. That's what God wants. I don't think God wants to create a race of beings like humanity and then have them demolished and controlled by AI. And that's, done. Okay. I really don't think that's the purpose of life. Yeah. So if you even psych out the psyche of the Creator, and just think logically, it's very easy to understand the things that God would want and the things that God would not want from humanity. Yes. And what he would definitely want is someone like Jesus who would go into the temple and knock over the tables and tell the truth.
Yes.
Okay? And that should be your image of Jesus, not this namby-pamby bullshit. He doesn't want your worship. He never did.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you so much for that nugget of knowledge.
Hope, okay? Yeah. Lying to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And everything you just said, it really hits home because I think you really own it. And I love you so much for that because, this didn't just come overnight. You didn't read it in a book. This is you. And this inspires us. And this is where, Red Pill family and everybody out there needs to really understand. The inspiration creates thrive. And it takes thrive for us as humanity to expand and grow. Right. And we need to honor that. We cannot be in fear of. Like, what you just said about AI is something to work with us. I agree with that so much because I've come to realization that there is no loss if we don't go to work tomorrow other than the wage. But that wage can be supplemented or replaced using something else. But what can be replaced is the life force that we have within ourselves in sense of connection with spirituality, connection with each other, and then connection with our Creator. And if we have the luxury and the time to do this, why will we not want to embrace it?
Right.
Yeah. So I see the greatness of what's all coming. I'm so grateful for all the, like I say, wisdom that you bring out for all of us. One of the things I want to talk about before we say goodbye to everyone is I want everybody to go and subscribe to your Substack. Because I tell you, you write some incredible stuff, and I get it every week.
Thank you. That's very kind.
Some of your focus is on things that even like the story of this poor girl in Europe, this week. That was just something that we need to pay attention to in humanity, right? And there's a lot of fear mongering among social media, especially, after Elon took over Twitter, it became the wild, wild west in a lot of ways. So therefore, we can't really trust if this story is a troll, this story is an AI manufactured. But what we do see is there's a lot of bad behavior among humanity, a lot of fighting, a lot of violence. And why are we being shown this? This is something that's a key for us. We can either be brainwashed by it or we can understand it and start making a difference ourselves. Right.
Well, it's kind of also understanding humans from, they say if you walk a mile in a person's shoes kind of thing. Yes. So trying to see things from other perspectives, even when your initial reaction is, oh, that's terrible or whatever. It's kind of like ICE when they went into these neighborhoods. I forget the state, Minneapolis or whatever it was.
Sure.
And the bottom line is, what did you expect would happen when you went into these neighborhoods, okay, and tried to go and get people and take them away? Those people may have been living there for 6 months. They might have been there for 6 years. I mean, these are so-called illegal aliens, right?
That's right. Yes.
Bottom line is, you want them to come in through the borders, and borders are sort of a structure that we are trying to maintain in order to take control of things like child trafficking in reality.
Yep.
So once this permeates the brains of the Democrats, for example, if they don't understand what has come to roost inside the United States as by virtue of open borders and so on and so forth. So it's not because they're racist, but we have things that these other cultures are actually dumping on us and trying to change our culture. And it's what's going to happen is we're all going to, it's kind of like an amalgamation, a melting pot. That's what the United States was. It's what it always will be. And that's our strength, actually.
Yes.
So regardless of how this is handled, I'm just saying that, there's this one guy who they actually tracked him back and found out that he was a doctor, but he was carrying a gun into a gunfight, So he had a gun in the back of his back, and so on and so forth. So whether he didn't ever get a chance to pull it, but the people around him pulled it, okay? And that, maybe even shot him with it. I don't even know the details. But I can tell you that an intelligence agent is talking about that incident in a completely different way than average people are talking about it. So there are always these extenuating circumstances that we don't actually know. But I think it does behoove us not to just say, oh, there's so many different versions of reality that's like you're really upset over that. But the reality is that it's actually creating an opportunity for you to actually enter this sort of Rashomon where you say you always get different stories from everyone involved in the incident, right? It's an old saying. So basically understanding things from all the different perspectives, 360 degrees, and then your brain will grow, okay, from that. Instead of having a straight and narrow, way of looking at life in general, because life is not like that. Life has different points of view. There's a victor and there's a victim, and those points of view are also in motion, because a lot of what appear to be victors consider themselves victims. You know that, right?
Yeah.
They consider themselves victims. It's an amazing dynamic. So I'm just saying, these things that are happening in our midst, which are controversial, we don't have all the answers. We can try to, find them out. But the George Floyd story is amazing. And this woman, hope I can remember, her name is, oh God, I forget her name. Okay, but anyway, she, I've done several interviews with her, and
You talk about Miriam?
I'm sorry, Miriam. Miriam, it's with an M at the end. So
Right. The B girl.
Yes, and she's a wonderful investigative journalist. She's written a book about George Floyd, and she's done a tremendous amount of investigation of that story on the ground, going and interviewing people that were involved and so on and so forth. I mean, that's a saga like you wouldn't believe. You would never know. It was not just first of all, he wasn't a hero.
That's right.
Second of all, he was sold to the people as a hero because they wanted to foment, I guess, racial, duress in that area.
Yep.
I'm just saying that these are opportunities we now have to investigate. Everyone has to be their own investigator. everyone has to be delving into the mysteries around us, not thinking they know, but finding out more, doing, hands-on research to find out the real truth.
Yes, I agree 100%, because we as a society cannot be led and fed by just what we see. And here's the information, eat it, stick it down your throat. And our predecessors, the grandfathers, the fathers, mothers in previous generations were raised that way. I know we are, at this generation, the boomer generation, waking up from all that crap. And I see that generations below us now are even more driven to seek for truth. And that is such a wonderful, positive movement for humanity. Yeah. I'm so grateful for you, Kerry. Thank you so much for coming in and talking with us.
And, I'm grateful for you, and I'm very happy, that you ask the questions you do. So thank you.
Yeah. These are things that have been burning in me for years. And of course, I've been following you for, probably since the beginning of Project Camelot. And, I go way back, like I said, to the audience before, I don't know how I got here. I had an interest in UFOs. And somehow, some way, somebody introduced me to the SSP, the Black Ops, and somehow the government corruption and rituals, satanic killings, and bam, it all tied in. I was like, what? So it's been an incredible journey, and I can only see great things coming forward for all of us. We can get your book, Rebel Gene, on Amazon, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's great. And I want to definitely, say, everybody go to Project Camelot, look at all the robust content. I want you to support this work because, I really, truly always believe in my heart that you're the cornerstone that has held this thing together for so long for all of us. Because of that, we were able to always go to a place to go, where was this? So Kerry probably got this interview somewhere.
Right.
We go dig for it.
I stand on the shoulders of giants, as they say, because it's my whistleblowers. If it were not for them, for men and women who risked their lives to tell the truth, and I was there to document it, all those years ago.
Right.
This is why I am where I am today.
Yes.
So it just didn't just dream it up. It's actually come through very hard work over many, many years.
Yeah. But it's interesting, though, going into Hollywood, being a writer, being an actor, and somehow this became your thing. Right. Yeah. And God bless, man. Because, it became my thing now. And I didn't pave my path going this direction, but now is fully, passionately wanting to help humanity, wanting to help all of us for greatness.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Very lovely.
Thank you so much. If you don't mind, stay with me. I'm going to play us out. Red Pill family, thank you so much for joining us on Friday night on Conversations on the Fringe. And all the prayers and love to everyone. And I appreciate, and I will see you back on the next one. So have a great weekend.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation. I want you to get mad.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
These people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!